Swift turnaround for Newcastle United. We're back at the club's media centre here in Benton and looking ahead to that Carabao Cup tie against AFC Wimbledon. Eddie Howe talking in the room there just about how seriously he is taking this competition. The fact that Newcastle got to the final a couple of years ago, very much still in his thoughts. But I think really for him, that team sheet will be interesting. We've seen a lot of managers down the years make sometimes up to 11 changes. I'm not sure Eddie Howe can do that, given the sort of how light the squad is really. You look at the squad overall and there's 5 goalkeepers in there and 2 centre-backs that can't play. He can't make too many changes to his lineup. But I think really for Newcastle fans, they just want to see Newcastle get through and set up that tie against Chelsea. I think the big changes will probably be Miguel Almiron comes in, William Asula, and definitely one of the goalkeepers will get their opportunity. As I say, 5 keepers in the squad, a lot to pick from. Eddie Howe not giving too much away on that, on terms of the goalkeepers, but as far as Almiron was concerned and Asula, they were spoken about positively. Kieran Trippier has a knock from the weekend, so he's probably unlikely to play. I can't see Sandro Tonali playing, given he came off with cramp. But Eddie Howe, talking about late decisions. Alexander Isak was never really in with a chance of playing in this game. Callum Wilson's still injured, so it looks like a chance finally for Asula to stake his claim. But ultimately, Newcastle must get through in this one. You can't take Wimbledon too lightly, but really, there would be a big inquiry if Newcastle don't make it into round 4 and set up that tie with Chelsea, especially now given the game has been switched to St James's Park. Wimbledon next up for Newcastle United after the 1-1 draw against Manchester City. And what a creditable draw it was as well. I thought Newcastle showed all the signs of a team who were determined to put some of the wrongs right from the Fulham game, and really, refreshing to see Nick Pope afterwards, say basically that Newcastle let themselves down at Craven Cottage. He had no one was making excuses. He took full accountability for the team, for what happened at Fulham, and I thought that was definitely credit where it's due, given that, in the past that we haven't had that. Newcastle players have sometimes retreated to that kind of siege mentality where it's them against the world. And look, I think you do need some of that, but I think it's far too early in the season to be talking about siege mentalities. I think Newcastle just needed to accept that result, and performance at Fulham wasn't good enough. I know there was a lot said behind the scenes at the training ground. I know Eddie Howe wasn't prepared to make excuses for anybody and said that it wasn't acceptable. And the chances are people could lose a place in the team if they didn't pick it up. Well, I thought they did pick it up against Manchester City, and I thought it was a very creditable display, and one on another day where, had things gone, fell for Newcastle at certain points, potentially, if we're really, really pushing it, could have got a narrow win. But by the same token, the way Man City ended the game, they were just encamped in the Newcastle half, and basically there was no, I don't think anybody walked away saying Newcastle should have won, but I think on another day the game might have opened up and allowed Newcastle to push on. But by the same token, Man City as well could have easily have got the 3 points later on, because of just the way they were, as I say, encamped in the half. But then you look at Newcastle's sort of spirit going into this game against Wimbledon. They need to get into the next stage of the Carabao Cup. No excuses can be made if they do fail to do it. Chelsea next up. It's a pathway to the quarterfinals of this competition. Eddie Howe in his press conference saying how he was taking it very seriously. Didn't say he was going to make 11 changes, but did hint at a few tweaks in the team, and I do think that hopefully we do see a strong team on paper and an opportunity for others to get a chance. And basically, Eddie Howe today, hinting at Almiron, hinting at Asula, wouldn't give anything away on the goalkeeper, but ultimately it does feel like Newcastle are going to make a lot of changes to the team for this game. So thankfully, Newcastle fans can look forward to this game being at St James's Park. The lengths you've got to go to get a game at home. But on a serious note, great to see Wimbledon having their pitch, resurfaced, and the money coming in. It's given them a bit of a boost, and great for them to have an away day at a Premier League ground as well. They've snapped up all their tickets, 1,200 tickets, I think it was. They've all gone. So, the League Two side are going to have an opportunity to visit St James's Park. For me, Wimbledon, one of the original members of the Premier League, I hope one day that they do go all the way up the ladder. They've fought back. They've came right up through the pyramid. Very, very impressive what they've done. The history of the club is intriguing. I've read a couple of books on it. It's really interesting stuff that teams can just say, right, that's it, we're going to start from scratch and then do it. And that's what Wimbledon did. So looking forward to welcoming them to St James's Park, and hopefully Newcastle can get the result, but ultimately keep the season alive in this competition. So important with no Europe that Newcastle make the most of this. And the Carabao Cup is, for me, I've said it before on here, that's the big chance for Newcastle to win something. It's the best opportunity. So let's hope they can do it. And hopefully Eddie Howe will be smiling on Tuesday night at St James's Park.